Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of The Scoreboard. The NFL Draft is in the books, and we've seen a couple surprises, a lot of expected results also. I feel like the first round was not quite as spectacular as we thought it was, especially in the beginning. Later on, it went a bit crazy, but I feel like the first couple of picks went down as was expected. There was definitely a lot more room for fireworks that did end up not really going off as much. But Smokey, what do you think of the draft, and how did you like the entire environment of it, the virtual draft aspect and everybody picking from home?
Man, I actually kind of enjoyed that. I know we got a few surprises. What was it? Mike Vrabel's kid was taking a dump in the background.
Yeah, that was like a mirror or something. Yeah.
Belichick's dog apparently made.
Yeah, it was on the desk. That was also great. Yeah.
You know.
That's a secret. The secret's been exposed. That's how it begins.
That's the mastermind.
Yeah.
You know what? I think he probably traded out of round one just because he didn't want to be on camera at his house.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Like that's very Belichick.
Exactly. And I think when it came to round two, he knew he had to make a pick, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just put the dog there," you know.
Yeah.
And make it seem like, I was out of the room and the dog just jumped up there.
Yeah.
No, because they caught him later actually giving the dog a treat. So obviously he put the dog there and gave him treats to stay there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was like trying to hide the fact that he wears the exact same clothing at home that he does on the sideline, like even with the hoodie.
Yes, exactly.
and the headset and all. That's how he lives, for sure. We might get to New England later down the line, but we have some interesting picks. I guess let's go sort of through the first couple of picks, and I have to start this whole thing off, of course, by tooting my own horn a little bit. We got 6 out of 6. So the first 6 picks I got spot on, and I guess the only really big time pick on my end was Andrew Thomas, I would think, because a lot of people that did not have him as the first overall lineman, and I didn't have him as my best overall lineman, but I just, because it's the Giants making the pick, it seemed only right to me. I felt like the Giants are exactly the kind of team to pick him. And I mean, you should be happy. He's from Georgia, right? You should like him.
Oh, yeah. I like Andrew Thomas. He's a great player, and they have a really good lineman there. I just expected that there were a couple more that would go ahead of him. But, he's a great player, and he definitely belongs in the top 5. So, can't say anything bad about that. Now, I will say that I actually had 6 out of the first 7 correct, and Andrew Thomas was the only one that wasn't correct until we get to pick at number 8. But...
So you had Derek Brown going to Carolina.
I did, yes.
Yeah, I had Simmons. I mean, I had them picking what I thought was the bigger need with Kuechly gone. I had to pick linebacker. He went one round later to the Cardinals, so very close.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, no big surprises. Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, as expected. We didn't see any serious intent to trade out of the spots. Tua to Miami, Justin Herbert to the Chargers. Kind of standard stuff that people have been projecting for a while. Then we have C.J. Henderson to the Jaguars at 9, which seemed a little unexpected with all those offensive tackles still on the board.
Yeah, it really is, but you could see they had to get a cornerback here somehow, you know, and I guess they just didn't want to wait for the later value. I mean, well, they only had to wait till 20, so I guess.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what do we still have? Mekhi Becton on the board?
Becton available, yeah. Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs all still available. And they went right after, too. Like, Jedrick Wills went at 10, went to the Browns. By the way, commendable pick. That's one of the best picks I've seen the Browns make in a while. And I'm not even poking fun. It's a very good pick at 10.
Yeah.
Mekhi Becton going, it's true. I'm being completely serious here. What? I'm being serious. Mekhi Becton to the Jets. Okay, yeah. Mekhi Becton going to the Jets out of Louisville. Highest upside offensive lineman in the class to me, but of course also lowest floor with certain off-field concerns there. And then we get into what we thought was going to be actually this was already start of what we thought was going to be the big race on receivers. We thought the Jets were picking receiver, and then the Raiders were going, and the Niners, they were all going to pick receiver. Didn't quite happen that way. Jets went O-line. Raiders, as expected, went receiver. They picked Henry Ruggs, and I know you disagree with this pick. You don't think he's better than Judy and Lamb. You even had him behind some other guys. I know you're not a huge fan of Ruggs. To me, it's a respectable pick. I think it's sort of, you really want to go with what fits your system best. And frankly, I thought Ruggs fit the Niners best, and I kind of either wanted him or CeeDee Lamb, depending on what the strategy is. But with Ruggs off the board, San Francisco traded back one spot with Tampa Bay. Let Tampa Bay get their offensive tackle. I was still expecting CeeDee Lamb at 14. Now, even with Ruggs off, I still expect receiver originally, but with Kinlaw on the board, you can't pass on him. And I think this pick is correct because the depth in receivers is so much bigger, and he's arguably a top 5 overall best available player, so you can't not pick. But Jerry Jeudy 15 to the Broncos. I think you gotta like this pick for Denver, though you don't like Denver.
Well, I'm not a big fan of Denver, but I do like the pick. That's great, man. They really needed another receiver on the other side over there, and Jeudy plays well out of the slot, so you can throw him at Y. But I want to say something about the Raiders. We kind of glossed right over that. I don't think Gruden is drafting for the Raiders style. I think he drafted Henry Ruggs because he thought he fit the Chiefs style. And I think that whole division is doing that now. They're trying to keep up with the Chiefs. Looking through the draft,
that's first priority. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Seems to be first priority, right?
And
you got to beat explosiveness.
It looks like the Broncos and the Raiders. I mean, it looks like they're saying, okay, well, who would Andy Reid take here? And that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like to me. I mean,
it seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, but
I like the pick though. I think Ruggs. You always point to the stats and how he wasn't the best receiver. Stat wise, not the best receiver in Alabama, but he's a better route runner than people give him credit for. And this type of top end speed makes up a lot in certain offenses.
Yeah,
and so I think he would have been the best fit for San Francisco, other than Lamb. They're two different types. As it would turn out later, San Francisco had targeted a taller receiver in the later rounds. I thought Ruggs was the best on board or best available for them had he been there, because it's an offense that relies more on scheming people open rather than people getting open in one-on-one situations and just beating man. No, he's a better route runner than given credit for.
Yeah.
But it's all about the open spaces and the yards after catch, and that's where he's arguably the best in the draft.
Well, typically anyone coming from Alabama is going to be an excellent route runner because Saban, he's all over the top of that. He's going to force them to be excellent route runners no matter what. So that's not a bad pick in that sense. Now, you got the speedy guy, though. Is Derek Carr capable of making those throws downfield?
I think he is. I just could throw it a half second earlier, right? At least it's good to have a deep threat.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if he's accurate downfield, because we don't see him throw downfield very often. I mean, lately he's been throwing to Hunter Renfrow and guys like that, and Amari Cooper never worked out well there, but Amari Cooper worked out with Dak Prescott, so was it Derek Carr's fault as to why Amari Cooper didn't work out?
It's certainly a scheme fit for receivers. I think they're hoping for Ruggs to be what they thought Antonio Brown was going to be, and that, of course, crash and burn in hilarious ways. I think that's kind of what they're seeing in him. That's what they're looking for. You got the quick, shifty, and track speed underneath guy who can run clean routes, and when given the ball in space is going to be just unstoppable. So I like the pick. And I don't think you can go very wrong because you got so much receiver class. Like I mentioned this to you, I had 8 receivers with a first round grade in this draft, or even 9 receivers with a first round grade in the draft, which is unheard of. But that's sort of as a result of the, in my opinion, definitive lack of talent on defense. So I had, for comparison, I had 2 interior defensive linemen with first round grades. That's of course Derek Brown and Kinlaw, and then I had 2 pass rushers was just Chase Young and Yetur Gross-Matos, and he didn't even go in the first round. And that's the entirety of the defensive line that I had as actual first round talent, as opposed to years prior, like last year, for example, where you had your top 5 edge rushers who were all top 10 talents. So very wide receiver heavy draft to me. Mm-hmm. That's why I, for one, like the Raiders pick, because you can't go wrong. And that's why I also like the 49ers pick, because you're getting the best player available on the board at a position of your need, and you know that there will be a first round receiver whenever you pick later down the line in the first round. So I think good decisions were made, and we saw receivers fall more than expected. Mm-hmm. But that might be a result of now wedged in there, and we get to see the Lamb. A.J. Terrell, cornerback, goes to the Falcons. It's a position of need, but I know that you're gonna have something to say on that.
Well, yeah, because there were definitely better players on the board. And cornerback, yeah, we're missing Desmond Trufant at this time, but that is not their number one priority. Like, you could make that argument for the Jaguars, who lost both of their star cornerbacks last season, but there's bigger holes in that defense. There's some holes in the offense that need to be filled in. I mean, we still had some tackles left on the board that are great. I mean, I wouldn't have been. We got Gurley. I wouldn't have been mad at a running back, but
a running back. Wow.
Yeah, but even AJ
running back would also be terrific.
Hey, we got Gurley now, but Gurley hasn't proven himself, and the Falcons have. We had a couple good years of Devontae Freeman. Yeah, that was a late round pick that actually worked out for a couple years, and then fell through, and you gave him the contract and it fell through big time. But the Falcons don't draft early round running backs, and I can't even Jamal Anderson. I don't know when was the last one, but it hasn't worked out either. We don't have star running backs. I mean, hopefully Gurley's going to work out, so that won't be as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be right now. But A.J. Terrell, there were better cornerbacks. Damon Arnett, there were better cornerbacks on the board for sure. And I'm trying to look at the bright side here, but Isaiah Wilson, we could have taken an extra tackle. You need more offensive linemen. The two we drafted last year didn't work out. And maybe that's why they went quarterback in round 1 this time, is because the 2 offensive linemen, they caught so much flack for those guys last year. But I don't know, bigger holes to fill. AJ Terrell, probably not the greatest pick. I'm not mad because we don't have Desmond Trufant anymore, but it could have been better.
So to me, this is sort of a reactionary pick, because you see what's happening in this division. Now all of a sudden you need to defend Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski and Chris Godwin and Michael Thomas, and this is a reactionary pick to this development, because, like you said, there was better talent, but he was nowhere close to best available. Pretty much all the picks surrounding pick 16 were pick best available. This is nowhere close.
Not even the best cornerback. That's the problem.
Maybe not the best, but maybe the best fitting, and that's sort of where it comes down to scheme again. He's 6'1", he's almost 200 pounds, and he's his arguably biggest strength is press coverage, and that's what the Falcons like to play a lot. They like to play the press, the underneath zones, and the sky zones, and that's gonna be a little bit of scheme fit there. I think he fits the Falcons a lot better than a lot of other teams in the NFL. Now, still, reach for a pick, no doubt. But they got their guy, I think. It seemed like they were completely dead set on picking him no matter what, almost, if it was going to be there.
Yeah.
And when that happens, usually you talk about reaches, but you can at least be sure they've done their work and they feel like he really fits their system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and that's exactly what Dan Quinn was going for. And yeah, you want a bigger body with that press coverage and zone coverage. My problem with Dan Quinn is he doesn't run enough man coverage, though, and I think we give up a lot of points because of that. But and if you were going to run a lot of man coverage, I think Damon Arnett would have been the better pick here. But it is what it is. Can't change the past.
You feel like running man coverage is the way to go in this division, with all these receivers that are so hard to cover 1-on-1. I feel like zone is actually the way to stop it, because you try to close the spaces and try to get to those old and slow quarterbacks in a hurry.
Well, yeah, I mean, or if you're gonna blitz. But no, man, I think you stick to these guys. I mean, you got guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Michael Thomas, dude. That's three of the top three wide receivers, dude. You put a guy on them and you tell him to stick to that guy. You know, that's what I would.
You need to have some special guys to be able to do it. I like the idea of actually trying to stop them with schemes, not necessarily with player matchups, because you almost never win those player matchups over the long haul. So to me, I see this as a better pick than you do, apparently, for your team.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been better. Like I said, it's not the worst. I mean, they could have done a lot worse. But, you know, maybe that's just it. Maybe my biggest problem is with the coverage that they run and not necessarily the player. You know, if you draft a guy who turns out to be the next Sherman, you know, you can win all of those matchups pretty much, you know, but...
Absolutely. And I like his physicality there. And I do like the scheme, but that's of course personal preference there. Moving on with CeeDee Lamb to the Cowboys. Of course, the big one, the sort of surprise of the night. A lot of people had him as their wide receiver one. And he goes to Dallas. I think this is... So, I don't like Dallas, obviously, right? But that being aside, I think it's a really good pick. I think he's a really good player. He's coming out of Oklahoma. He's going to Dallas. I have no reason to like him, but I do. He's a fantastic player, and I think he's going to be a great complement to Amari Cooper. And I feel like the passing attack in Dallas is going to be real. You have a good running game also with Zeke. And the big situation for Dallas is, and what's really going to be the difference between playoff team and not playoff team, not just next season, but in a while for the foreseeable future, is the quarterback situation. And do you actually sign Dak Prescott, and is he your guy? It seems like they can't really make up their mind on that, but that aside, I think they did well in this draft, and I think Lamb was a slam dunk pick for them.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and for two reasons. For one, you see that a lot of these teams, even the Cowboys, are trying to put together their three-man onslaught at wide receiver, you know, and they have theirs now. You know, that's going to be a great receiving core right there. But what was funny is... Obviously, when they cut to Jerry Jones, he was laughing. And there was a reason he was laughing. Is because he knew that the Eagles needed a receiver. And he knew that CeeDee Lamb was still on the board. Now, a couple years ago, they jumped the Cowboys to steal the tight end. Who was it? Goddard. You know, they jumped him and stole their tight end. So, I think this was... Jerry paying back the Eagles for stealing the tight end, and he's like, yeah, I don't even need the receiver, but I'm taking it because I know the Eagles want CeeDee Lamb at that point.
I mean, you could have made an argument for someone like Cesar Ruiz there to fill a bigger need, but I think it's a good pick still.
Oh, it's a great pick.
You got CeeDee.
Yeah.
You got your true wide receiver one now. No, you're not going to see infinite brackets on Amari Cooper, and you got Michael Gallup also. So provide your doubtful quarterback with the tools that he needs to turn this team into a playoff contender on a yearly basis. I do like it. Let's go look at some other receivers, because we mentioned how deep this class was. The Eagles, like you just said, also went wide receiver Jalen Reagor out of TCU, and then back-to-back Justin Jefferson to the Vikings. We both had Justin Jefferson ranked pretty highly, and I think this is a good pick for Minnesota. I think we both will agree on that. This is actually quite a nice pick, but both those guys, you can't do much wrong. Whichever one you prefer, I think good picks. And then towards the end of the first round, it got a bit more out there. Is two more picks in particular, actually three that I want to discuss. Let's quickly go over the other receiver, Brandon Ayuk at 25 to the 49ers. They traded up a couple spots to get him, and I feel like he's the closest to Ruggs, and that's also why I think he was the Niners' second receiver overall, because they were looking for like the player type and scheme fit more necessarily than individual talent. I don't know their stance on CeeDee Lamb, but it doesn't seem like they were very high on Judy or Jefferson in that same regard. So John Lynch said the plan was to take Ayuk at 13, which would have been a pick that I would have frowned at a little bit, because it seems like because I like Ruggs and other receivers a little bit better than him.
Mm-hmm.
Though with the defensive tackle, of course, available there, you really didn't have a choice. And then you get him at 25. I think it makes sense, though. To me, I still wanted that true receiver one physique more than I wanted the Deebo Samuel clone. Not that having a second Deebo Samuel isn't a great thing, and Ayuk is one of the best yak players in this draft, and going to be one of the best in the NFL. Explosive with the ball in his hand there, hence the comparison to Ruggs. But I felt like at this point they're still lacking that 6'5" jump ball guy on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
That Julio Jones.
Yes, exactly. And I think, personally, the better pick would have been T. Higgins at that point. But, I mean, I know you made it clear that Shanahan is in love with Ayuk.
It seems like it. I mean,
if that's your guy and you think
from what I've heard,
fit,
yeah.
But, I would tend to think a Clemson wide receiver would be a little more polished than an Arizona State wide receiver. And maybe that's just, being naive about the whole situation. But Brandon Ayuk, I didn't get to see a lot of his games. I just saw clips of him. So maybe he's better than I'm thinking. But personally, I would have went with T. Higgins at that point. Or went up to get Justin Jefferson or Jalen Reagor.
He's definitely better than I thought initially, and that's because we really only had 1 year of that wide receiver one exposure, right? So because last year, of course, we had N'Keal Harry coming out, who got the majority of the attention in that Arizona State offense. Now Ayuk is quite a lot better than Harry, in my opinion. In this last season, he's a more explosive player. Though N'Keal Harry was also, of course, first round pick last year, went to the Patriots.
Of course. Yeah.
Not working out too well so far, but from what I understood, the board or the draft board for San Francisco was in order Kinlaw, Ruggs, and Ayuk. So I think getting 2 out of 3 is pretty good in the first round. And so we don't expect Kinlaw to be DeForest Buckner in his rookie season, right? That's somewhat of an unrealistic expectation. Do I think he's sort of very similar type of player. I'm not expecting him to come in and be the best 5 technique in the league in his first year, though he can certainly develop into a similar player. Now you saved a lot of money on that. You're replacing essentially Emmanuel Sanders with Ayuk, very similar player. So you're kind of just filling in the same spots in your roster with the guys you look for. So I think it's a fine pick. You have to look at salary cap at this point because you have so much talent that needs to be paid. So, in my opinion, good pick. Last thing, though, we need to bring up the big one. The sort of later on shocker, that's Green Bay, of course. Jordan Love, the fourth quarterback to go in the first round out of Utah State. And actually, let's transition this into the Green Bay draft at its entirety. Because when you look at the board, they had 9 picks. They had 9 picks in this draft. They picked a quarterback with their first, and then proceeded to not select a single wide receiver all weekend. So before I start speaking, just give me your take.
Well, they're not hurting at wide receiver. I thought they would take a higher tight end personally, but the Jordan Love pick, holy Jesus, man, what are they doing? Wow. I think Aaron Rodgers just got Brett Favre. And you think they're pulling Aaron Rodgers on Aaron Rodgers? I think they did. And either they're trying to psych him out or get him to light a fire under him like Alex Smith in his last season with the Chiefs or something maybe. But Jesus, he's gonna be pissed. I mean, I'm sure he already is, but Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed. And rightfully so. And Jordan Love is going to get no love in that locker room. Wow.
So if they believe that Aaron Rodgers is the guy in the locker room, the one player that needs to be psyched up, like you said it, they need to give their heads a shake because he's the only reason that they've been where they were. I tweeted this at you just a couple days ago. This statistic that's kind of hard to believe, but Aaron Rodgers in his entire NFL career has thrown one touchdown pass to a first-round pick. That was Mercedes Lewis. You compare that to Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, hundreds.
Yeah.
All other top quarterbacks, hundreds. And what this pick, you asked what is this pick? I'll tell you what this pick is. This pick is a resignation. This pick is the Packers closing their current Super Bowl window shut. That's what this pick is. They're saying it's not happening. The disparity in our general roster talent and what we have outside of a quarterback is not enough in the foreseeable future to beat New Orleans or San Francisco and those physical run-heavy football teams. That's what they're saying. The Aaron Rodgers era, the competitive Aaron Rodgers era, has been given up on. And the Packers are in their first year of a rebuild. It's not going to look like it because Aaron Rodgers is there and they're going to win 10 games. But the Packers have started a rebuild with this draft. That's what I'm thinking. And not picking a single receiver, I'm at a lack of words over this, honestly. And you pick a quarterback with your first pick. It can't mean anything but that they have given up on this and they are starting a rebuild. That's all I can take from this. To me, of course, this is the worst draft, not just worst pick, but worst draft in the entire league. Because you're simply not drafting for what you do. You were at the NFC Championship game last year, so clearly you're doing some stuff right. Now, you lost kind of badly, but then you would think that they would go back and look at why and try to fix it. And guess what? It's not because of Aaron Rodgers. It's because of everything around him, and
that always
nothing was invested in it. It always has been. And Devontae Adams gets triple covered all game.
Yeah, because he's the only one.
Because out of that, and he's throwing to target dummies.
Yeah, and Devontae Adams is a great wide receiver, but he's out there with undrafted free agents all over the field on the other side. Like, he is the only target that's worth anything, and
that's the thing, right? He's a great receiver, and it would be great competitive games if he got to go head to head, one-on-one with Richard Sherman or Marshall Lattimore all game. But that's not what happens because people shade a second person over him, and then they kick a linebacker out in that buzz zone, and all of a sudden there's 3 people on him, and they take him away, and there's nothing. They can't run the football against a simple 43 front. And no one else can beat man coverage on this team. And now they draft quarterback completely. I don't understand any. I understand a bit of it. Absolutely no clue to me. Clear resignation. Super Bowl windows closed for Green Bay. And they're going to try to rebuild with Jordan Love, who better be better than... If they want to keep going like this, he's got to be better than Aaron Rodgers, which,
See, I was trying to rationalize it. Like, maybe this is just their Brett Hundley pick, but it's first
with the
round.
First pick... You're coming from a championship game.
Jesus, this is other than that, I can't make any sense on it. Yes.
If
why
they
are you
six,
rebuilding? T. Higgins was on the board.
That's what I'm asking.
Michael
just pick
Pittman.
a receiver.
Yes, Michael Pittman was there. Laviska Shenault. All these guys I had high. Even Cole Kmet. I mean, if you wanted another tight end because Jimmy Graham does not catch passes.
Take him in the second round, maybe.
Yeah,
Take him in the second round, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, geez. Well,
if they win like 6 games last season, this pick is more acceptable. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't play an MVP performance with no help. Then this is an acceptable pick. But how can you go to an NFC Championship game and then not come back with the ambition of going back there and winning it next time? And this is not how you do that. It's not how you do that at all.
I've never seen a team rebuild after making the playoffs.
No, not like this. Not like this. Not at all.
It's like the Broncos and their quarterback is retiring or something. But yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't get it.
I don't understand. If I were Aaron Rodgers, honestly, I would want out of Green Bay right now. I would want to go somewhere and have a legitimate shot, like a team that gives me a chance.
Washington Redskins.
But any team, because you'll be the best. You'll be the starting quarterback on 30 other teams.
Yeah,
you know what that 31st team is, Chris. We're not gonna talk about those. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, because they did pick a running back like I had projected. I could not have been more wrong in the running back that they picked.
Yeah, everybody expected them to pick a running back. They picked the wrong one. What are they? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It seems like,
yeah.
He's a good, quick guy, and he can catch passes, but he is 5'7", somewhere in that area. Dude, you had DeAndre Swift on the board. You had Jonathan Taylor. Jesus.
How is
he was
like
DeAndre
number
Swift 7 for me? Like, I don't get it.
He was number 5 in my running backs, but I always just felt like he was like 90% of DeAndre Swift in every way, right? Like he's just like Swift is just a little bit better than him.
Yeah.
And that's the pick that I thought made natural sense there, because you have a pass catching receiver.
Oh man,
Equally high quality college offense, or almost as high quality college offense, I should say. And apparently they done their work and they got their guy, because Swift was on the board, as was Taylor and all the other ones. And apparently this is what they wanted all along.
Apparently Andy Reid is in love with him, and you know what this comes down to? Championship bias. I feel like half the coaches and general managers in the league only watch the championship game. That's why.
You think they only watch the playoff? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's why Alabama didn't get 8 of their picks in the first round this year. They only watch the championship games.
Well, Alabama does always get their fair share of picks. What was it, like 4 or 5 in the first round?
Yeah, they had a lot. Yeah, not like last year, but they had a lot.
They always do.
Yeah, well, it's the SEC. All of SEC dominated this draft like usual. And I wish, I'll tell you this, I wish the fans would give up on, there's an SEC bias in the media. Like, they're always just talking up the SEC. No, you know where there's an SEC bias is in the NFL, because they know they're the best players.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the exact point. Yeah, like there's not, like in a law firm, there's not a college degree bias. Or like that's not what that's called. That's just called common sense. You pick the best guys, and you do that in the NFL. And the SEC has been producing those for a long time, absolutely. But that's the first round capped off to me. Couple of the really good picks to me. CeeDee Lamb, I have to admit, very good. Like Isaiah Simmons to the Cardinals, honestly, I think they did a great job. Worst pick, or actually, let me mention also the Ravens. Patrick Queen, like I projected, I hit that spot on, and I knew it all along.
I did too.
It just had to happen. It's such a Ravens pick, right? It's like the CJ Mosley. It's such a Ravens pick. Of course, the second best interior linebacker is going to fall somehow magically. All the way to 28, and they're going to pick him, right? I never had a doubt.
They're going to be at least a top 5 defense again.
Yeah, they're going to be contenders. And I would expect to see them in pushing for an AFC Championship game, even starting this season, and for a while. Absolutely. Let's go look at some overall draft performances. We've talked about Baltimore, and I think Baltimore generally did very well. They picked up the running back that they needed, J.K. Dobbins, which is a very, very good 1-2 punch for Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
In the second round. Got a couple wide receivers later on and some offensive line help. I think very solid draft for an already stacked team. Let me ask you first, actually, your favorite draft overall out of all of them.
Overall, I haven't really thought about it. Man, the Broncos did really well. I'm not hating the Broncos. I mean, of course, I'm a skilled position guy, so that might bias my pick a little bit. And they took two receivers, of the top 10 receivers. Top receivers. Yeah. The Giants didn't do so bad. I think I'm gonna give it to the Broncos. Even though the Bengals, it's kind of hard to not do so well when you're the number one pick. But
You pick you get your full choice. You get the guy.
Oh, you know what? I think the Dolphins did really well.
Miami, all right, interesting.
Yeah, I mean they got their quarterback of the future.
Yeah,
and
for sure. I also like the pick.
Yeah, and as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to go on to be the best quarterback out of this draft.
Yeah, they got some of the best, some of the better linemen also.
They did.
And yes, to me he was the number one. To me, he was the best player overall in the draft. But of course, injury concerns, and he got bumped down, which is completely realistic. I'm not hating on this at all. I think in fact, the Joe Burrow pick was the correct pick. It was not the best player, but it was the correct pick to make, in my opinion, absolutely. Tua to me is the best. There's two teams I wanted to highlight specifically, and you already brought up Denver. It's, I think, not just like a very high quality draft, but also a very precise draft, because you look at what they're looking at right now, you're facing a pretty tough division, especially, of course, with Kansas City. And you got presumably your quarterback in place in Drew Lock, who, by the way, was my number one quarterback in that class. So, needless to say, I think very highly of him. And now you give him Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler back-to-back rounds.
Yeah.
Both receivers with first-round grades. And by the way, you get Lloyd Cushenberry, the third, who out of LSU, who, you might say championship bias, but he's my number 2 interior offensive lineman in this draft.
Dude.
And you get it in the third round.
That's another thing that pissed me off, man. Let me bring up the third round here and check my stats right before I say this so I don't look stupid. Yes. The Falcons took the center from Temple when Cushenberry was still on the board. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? Temple.
Like 2 picks later. Yeah.
Matt Hennessy. I don't care how good Matt Hennessy was at Temple. That is not the level of competition that is at LSU. You could have had the national championship center who was, like you said, definitely top 3 for this draft. You could have had him because Alex Mack is about to retire within the next couple of seasons. You need a Lloyd Cushenberry, but we don't have a Lloyd Cushenberry. We have a Matt Hennessy from Temple. Thank you, Dan Quinn.
Well, to be fair, Matt Hennessy was my number 5 interior lineman, but Cushenberry second. Robert Hunt actually the only guard there at 3. But yeah, I was a bit stumped by that too. I think Cushenberry's better. But, you don't know. He was available, so I guess they made up their mind on it. I can't really explain it, though. I don't.
They do this every year. They do this every year. They'll have guys, SEC guys, sitting there on the board, and they'll go to a Temple or a Drake University, or I don't know what film they're watching. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just it. They see the film from these Division III schools, and they're like, wow, that guy's really good. But it's not the level of competition, and that's the problem. Jesus Christ.
You had Bill Belichick take a Division II player with his first pick. So that was something.
And that made no sense to me either, but it's Bill Belichick, so all you can do with Bill Belichick is just assume that he knows what he's doing.
Just trust him.
He had Cole Kmet that he could have taken. He really needed a tight end. So what did he do? He picked like the 18th tight end on the board. I don't know.
Yeah, he actually picked back to. I think they picked 2 tight ends actually. Yeah, got the guy from UCLA. And another tight end. But yeah, they had 2 tight ends. But yeah, the first pick, Kyle Duggar, just at the top of the second round, was not a name that I was expecting, because you start the second round and it starts off on fire. You go, oh, there's DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, and then wait, Kyle Duggar from Lenore-Rhyne? Who is that? And that's their first pick of the draft.
Exactly, and there were so many better tight ends on the board. Like, there were better tight ends that went undrafted.
I think so. I think so. But yeah, he picks, and he decided, we got to go defense first because his first 3 picks were defense.
Yeah,
and
safety and and
my
bad.
I think a
kinda
line,
cut you
2
off,
pass
but-
rushers.
Yeah.
No, that's all right.
Kyle Duggar. Who is Kyle Duggar, by the way? Because I didn't know this
Kyle
name before the draft.
I had heard the name, but way down on a list of potential late round defensive backs.
All right. I mean, I guess he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's Bill Belichick, for God's sake. But...
I guess not a name I was expecting to hear anywhere near the first 2 days. But the second team I actually wanted to highlight, the Carolina Panthers. I really like this draft. Now, it wasn't Isaiah Simmons, and I thought it was gonna be, and I think it still maybe should have been.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard because, of course, you got to replace him quickly. But it's hard to argue with Derek Brown and Yetur Gross-Matos. And you don't even have to trade up. So you get Brown at 7th overall. Solid pick. It's really just, whichever you prefer. He's the best run stuffer in the draft. And Gross-Matos was my second best edge rusher. And my 3rd overall pass rusher in the entire draft. Now, when did the 3rd best pass rusher in the draft ever fall to the 2nd round?
Yeah, I had him. I had a 1st round pick. I forgot who I had taken him right offhand, but he was late 1st rounder. So yeah, that was a great pick, and he was great at Penn State. So really good pick, man. Derek Brown, I had him. I had them picking Derek Brown just because he was the best player left on the board after. Who almost everyone had taking, the first 5-6 picks, and they were pretty much spot on except for my Andrew Thomas. But yeah, Derek Brown, the next best guy up. So that's why I had them taking him, only because of that. But yeah, they needed cornerback, and, they filled it later on in Troy Pride. Not bad, I guess. Notre Dame's not necessarily known for cornerbacks or anything, but yeah. I don't know.
No linebackers though, which is
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm looking through. I'm like, who's gonna replace Kuechly?
I think if the first pick is Simmons, you got Simmons and then Gross-Matos. I think is quite simply best draft in the league, just for those first 2 picks. Definitely highest class because you just got top 1st round talent with 2 picks. And also, let's not ignore, this is of course a bit of homerism, but Kenny Robinson, going to the Carolina Panthers, of course, superstar safety, legendary player of the St. Louis Battlehawks, the late great St. Louis Battlehawks of the second coming of the XFL. We don't talk about that, but he was great.
Yeah.
I was close, by the way, to buying merchandise of the Battlehawks, and now I'm glad that I didn't.
Yeah. It's sad, man. I really wanted that league to succeed, man.
Yes, absolutely. But we knew he was going to be drafted either way. I mean, neither of them been playing.
Oh yeah.
In XFL, we knew he was gonna be drafted.
And see, that's what. And I was looking forward to so many of those stories. The guys go there for the winter and then get drafted. But
Now, you didn't draft much help here for Teddy Bridgewater when you're starting quarterback. As a matter of fact, didn't pick an offensive player at all.
Not at all.
But sometimes the solid defense is the best help for an offensive player.
Yeah, I mean, if they can keep the ball from moving down the field and give you short fields, I mean, why not? But
there's a lot of quarterbacks that will tell you about that.
Yeah, and Derek Brown is a guy that can do that for you, because that was a top 5 defense over there at Auburn this past season, and he was the main reason. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at that route, defense wins championships.
Now, you're looking, though, in terms of fits, this is why I like Simmons a little better. I think they're about equal, on the same level in terms of talent, and it's sort of a pick 'em. But is Brown the best fit in this system? Because it's going to be a pass-heavy division. Now we got the Bucs who are going to never run the football. You have New Orleans, who likes to throw, and Atlanta, who likes to throw with Julio Jones. And Derek Brown, to me, is not the greatest pass rusher. He's not the best interior lineman when it comes to pass rush, that would be Kinlaw. And he's not the best guy for those kinds of pressures, though, of course, as an overall player and as a run defender, he is undoubtedly the best player. He's like
great at run defense.
Williams.
Yeah. But I will tell you, I've watched Derek Brown truck some offensive linemen throughout last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he can do it, yeah. But yeah,
he can do it.
Much better at taking out the running back for sure.
He can do it. He's not a guy who will get double-digit sacks anytime soon, because he'll eat double teams, and he can two-gap over probably any guard in the NFL. But he's not going to get a lot of pressure, or a lot of sacks. At least he's going to get some pressures. But he's going to help your defense out immensely. Having a nose tackle like that is definitely huge. So I do like the pick. I think you could have gone with either Kinlaw or even Gross Matos in that first round for more of a pass rushing presence.
Yeah, true.
But it's undeniable the talent. So to me, Broncos and Panthers, sort of the two I wanted to really highlight here, because I like those drafts a lot. Now I have to give some credit to Dallas, obviously, because the CeeDee Lamb pick was very good, and they got Trayvon Diggs in the second round, who I had mocked to the 49ers at the very end of the first round. So at 31, I had them picking Trayvon Diggs, the corner out of Alabama. He fell quite a bit, and the Cowboys scooped him up, which I think also another great pair of first picks for Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Trayvon Diggs. I had him going in the first round also. So
I think we had a lot of people that we had going in the first round, and then they kind of just all fell down because these weird names start popping up towards the end of the first round, where everybody was just reaching.
Exactly. And I think if I was a GM or a coach, I would like to say I would go for the best player available rather than need, I guess. But because, just from what I see, it seems to work out better. Because
it's a lot easier though to go best available if you don't have many needs.
Yeah,
and that's sort of
holes,
what creates this illusion a lot of times, right? Like, if you're Cincinnati, you can't pick Chase Young or Jeff Okudah because they're best available because you need a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's
you have
true.
to pick need.
Yeah, although a lot of people were suggesting that the Bengals might wait on the quarterback and take Chase Young.
That would have been very surprising to me.
Exactly. I didn't see it happening, but there was a lot of analysts suggesting that.
I had $1 on the fact that Joe Burrow was not going to be the first overall pick at a rate of 1 to 10. So I would have made $10 if it were true. I made that bet months ago, and I never believed it, but it was a good bet. Mm-hmm. I think, but of course they would pick him. But yeah, it's sort of like it's harder when you have needs, because you end up with something like Atlanta right now. You compare, for example, Atlanta, right? Compare them to the Jets in the first round. Jets get Mekhi Becton, best available pick, or you look at the Cardinals, Isaiah Simmons, best available was picked.
Yeah. For sure.
You can't do anything wrong with that. You'll definitely get praise for it. Though I think this AJ Terrell pick was actually a really good pick for Atlanta. It doesn't, the numbers don't say it, right? But he's arguably the most important player that can help them out, in my opinion, in the way he plays and the scheme fits, which is going to be more important now that Tampa Bay is also coming out guns drawn.
Yeah, that's kind of scary to think about. Even Teddy Bridgewater's a step up, so that division might be really good this season. Like, the entire division might just be really good. It might be a trading. Okay, we got, best available versus needs on your team. How do we explain Green Bay? Just every time I scroll through here, I look Jordan Love, like, wow, that's a for one, they don't need a quarterback, and that's a late second round, maybe a third round quarterback right there.
They need everything but quarterback, and he's certainly not best within the best 30 available at that point. I cannot explain that with my logic.
Yeah.
That's a different type of logic that I am unfortunately not enlightened on. But that brings me to actually what the last segment that I wanted to go to, which is we just said good overall drafts, some bad overall drafts, disappointing drafts, F grades. I have one F to hand out, and you know who that is. I have some D minuses stuff.
Yeah.
Seattle. Now, this is not bias speaking. I don't like how Seattle has drafted. Jordan Brooks is a guy that I did not have, and I have at the fringe of the second round, maybe, nowhere near the first. And by the way, since 2012, when they picked Bruce Irvin, did Seattle not make a good first round pick? Last year, you had LJ Collier, who I just had completely out of left field, and this year with Jordan Brooks is sort of the same thing. Patrick Queen on the board. And he goes to the Ravens. A pick later, which was completely crazy to me. So I don't like what Seattle did. Didn't think they've made a lot of those mistakes before. Philadelphia. I gotta say, this division's gotta be tough. I think Dallas might be looking pretty good next year. As much as I don't like to admit that, because I like their draft a lot better than the Eagles. Jalen Reagor's a good pick, right? You need a receiver. But then what do you want with Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts, what are you doing? Yeah, what? The only thing I could assume, and you could have gotten him in the fourth round probably, but the only thing I could assume that pick was they want a Taysom Hill guy. Because he's not your quarterback of the future. Guess. He's definitely not your quarterback of the future. You have a superstar.
Yeah, top 5 quarterback in the house.
Yes.
So I liked what they were doing. Like after first round, okay, yeah, they know what they're doing. They saw their weakness, which was receiver. They didn't have anyone for Carson Wentz to throw to last year. Now they're drafting his guys, and
definitely
they did a good job with that. With Jalen Reagor, I was like, yo, they know what they're doing, and then they picked Jalen Hurts, which surprised me. But they ended up picking more receivers later on, but Jalen Hurts was a bit of a dud. And I feel like all the defensive players they picked were slight reaches. A little bit underwhelming to me there. But I feel like Jalen Hurts was an unnecessary pick at that position. I don't think that was anywhere near their need or best available.
No, not at all. And that's not as bad as Green Bay, but it's pretty horrid.
No, sure. Green Bay is the worst. It was the worst. Absolutely the worst. That Jordan Love pick is absolutely inexcusable. And if I were a Packers fan, I'd be mad. Since I'm not a Packers fan, I am of course not mad, because that's since I'm a Niners fan, this is literally one team of competition just eliminating itself. Not that they weren't getting eliminated hard enough by us, but they're eliminating themselves now. So I will gladly take that. It's just New Orleans to go, and we make 5 straight Super Bowls. No, not quite, but I actually like New Orleans, so they didn't have a lot of picks. Rams, of course, you can say not great, but then again, when is the last time that you saw the Rams make an NFL draft pick, right?
Golf.
It seems like it, right? That's the last time anyone noticed the Rams making a pick, because they didn't have a first round pick since then. Sean McVay has never made a first round pick as an NFL head coach. Fun fact.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
feels bad. But they did actually have some late round picks. The Vikings, also one that I just quickly wanted to glance over, because they picked a lot of players, notably Jeff Gladney and Justin Jefferson there in the first round. I like the Vikings picks. They had quantity over quality, but I think they got quality players out of it, and I think that they are going to be looking to really win this division or compete for it, because sort of the armies against Aaron Rodgers are growing, right? And he's getting nothing. It's sort of like you got one Rambo with like a handgun and then like 100 regular dudes in tanks. It's sort of what this feels like in the NFC North at this point. I don't know how long he's gonna hold out with this. I feel sorry for the guy. I've said this so many times. I feel so sorry for Aaron Rodgers.
I do too.
And
and not to Not to mention, I think the Lions are going to be much better next season.
Yeah, maybe.
You almost have if Jeff Okudah works out like he's supposed to be, you got a lateral replacement for Darius Slay. Now, I know Darius Slay is great, and Jeff Okudah is unproven to right now, but he's an Ohio State cornerback that was listed in the top 3 players this season. He should, by all means, be as good as Darius Slay was. You got DeAndre Swift. Oh yeah, go ahead.
If he hits, he can take Devontae Adams one-on-one. He can be that counterpart. And that's exactly a big one, because you're like you take Adams out, you get to the quarterback in 3 seconds. That's how you stop Green Bay, because Aaron Rodgers can't do anything by himself.
Yeah, exactly, and he can't run like he used to. That's for sure. I mean, he's not slow by any means for his age, but he's not the guy he was 10 years ago.
He also shouldn't have to, right?
Well, exactly.
You think that if you have this, like, the best quarterback of the 21st century so far, there's another guy, you know who I'm talking about, who don't mention him.
Oh, that dude.
But so far,
Watson.
Yeah,
I forgot about him.
That Mahomes guy, right? The guy who had set the best 2-season streak in sports, North American sports history. But we don't talk about that right now. Yeah. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers, the so far greatest quarterback of the 21st century, and arguably since Dan Marino, or maybe John Elway. And he's in the latter half of his career, right? You shouldn't force him to do everything by himself, right? What they do with Tom Brady. Here's Randy Moss. Here's Julian Edelman. Here's Gronk. Right? Let me give you top 5 defense every year. Drew Brees. Okay, here's Michael Thomas. We'll draft 5 running backs. We'll play them all at the same time. We got basically we got you a stunt double in Taysom Hill, so you don't have to move anymore.
Exactly. So you don't have to run it yourself.
Right. How do you mess this up so badly if you're Green Bay? Like, you've gotten so reliant on just Aaron Rodgers pulling miracles out of his pockets left and right every single week, and this is going to backfire. This is going to frankly backfire hard on them. I feel like the Packers are in for, and I tweeted this out a couple days ago, I think the Packers are in for years, if not a decade, of bottom of the barrel football of 3 and 13 seasons when Aaron Rodgers retired, because it's the entire house of cards just collapsing, and he's the only thing that's been preventing that through a lot of terrible coaching. And listen, I like their coaching, right? It's everything off of the Gruden, Shanahan, LaFleur coaching tree is miles better than anything that Mike McCarthy will ever do. I am very convinced with that.
I don't think McCarthy was as bad as people make him out to be, though.
Well, see, the thing is, if you win 10 games with Aaron Rodgers, you win 3 by yourself. Is sort of the idea, and we'll see how he does in Dallas. And I think he's going to be very much Jason Garrett, and he's going to be the clapper, and
maybe
not much a difference maker. Yeah, he's going to slightly underperform with an above average talented roster. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be hard to tell, because that's Jerry Jones' team, and the only way you get to be a coach for Jerry Jones is to be a yes man and just do what Jerry says, you know. But and it's really hard to tell with Green Bay, because he had Aaron Rodgers, you know. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the team after the Cowboys is when we find out how good McCarthy is.
If there's one, yeah. Depending on how badly he does. Depending on how badly he does with the Cowboys, see if he gets the head coaching job. No, I trust Matt LaFleur to build an NFL team. But with what he's given, if Aaron Rodgers retires today, he is off sitting there worse than Kyle Shanahan when he came to San Francisco. He's going to be sitting there with less than the 49ers after 3 years of post Jim Harbaugh and Chip Kelly shenanigans. I honestly think that's how bad it is, and it took that team 3 years, and it's going to take the Packers a lot longer than that. I think they're going to be for a bad time with Aaron Rodgers being gone. frankly, I wanted to offer you this bet, right? Actually, it was more of a impulsive thing, but I'm making it up right now. But I'm willing to bet you at an odds of, say, 2-1. The Packers do not go to a Super Bowl in the 2020s.
Man,
starting with the next year, so the 2020 season until the 2029 season. Packers don't go to a Super Bowl.
Wow, that's tough. I could agree with it though, because if they're gonna draft like this every season, they're definitely not. And and if Jordan Love is their quarterback in 2021, yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean,
they're not going to the next 2 years because they have no hope in the world of beating New Orleans or San Francisco at all. Yeah. And they're not going to do it when Aaron Rodgers is retired because they're going to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah, and Jordan Love is not. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Deshaun Watson. He's not even Kyler Murray. Like I don't know.
I mean, we don't know this.
I mean,
course,
he
right?
could develop.
Like Patrick Mahomes wasn't Patrick Mahomes when the Bears traded up from 2-2 to pick Mitch Trubisky, right?
Yeah. But maybe that was a LaFleur mistake, you know.
Maybe, but from a matter of fact standpoint, this Jordan Love pick is so bad, and it's completely not understandable at all to me. But we're spinning in circles here. Packers bad, Cowboys good. Okay.
Yep.
Panthers good. That's sort of what we're taking away from this. Thank you. Yes. That's we could have done what we did in an hour. We could have done that in 1 minute, just there. But I hope you sat through the whole thing anyway and enjoyed the show. So let us know your opinions on the draft in the comments of this video. Who won the draft? Who lost the draft? Who made good picks? Who made bad picks? And by the way, I have to say this, of course, since this is very much concerning my team, since Joe Staley retired, I have to give a shout out to him. He's the last player on the 49ers roster that actually lived through the Jim Harbaugh era. And it's hard to believe that the longest tenured 49er right now is Jimmy Ward. And I remember him being picked. And that was sort of the downfall years. I believe it was the first year after Harbaugh. Might have been the first year with Harbaugh. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, 5 years from now, I feel like Joe Staley should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm glad they got to replace him with an equally talented player in Trent Williams. So that was, if that trade works out well and he actually is healthy and able to play, I think that was also a great trade. Because he's better than any draft pick that was available in the third round, of course. But that has to be mentioned. Other than that, let us know what you think. How do you like the AJ Terrell pick? Did the quarterbacks go to the right spots? And how do you explain Green Bay's behavior? Let us know in the comments. And if you don't have anything to add, Smokey?
Nope.
All right, then we're going to see you in the next one.
Deuces.